I be in and out of arenas like I'm Scottie Pippen.
Left my elbow in the pot, a la Vince Carter.
Hold up, I ain't trying to stump, man, but the Yeezys jumped over the jump, man.
Bitch, you weren't with me shooting in the gym?
Wrong nights, I perform like Mike. Anyone, Tyson, Jordan, Jackson, action.
James Hard with the range on me, nigga, way back.
Been flowing stupid since Vince Carter was on some through the legs arm and a hoop shit.
Coach, they won't knock me off my pivot. Get it?
I'm on my New York shit. I rep the Giants, Jets, New York Knicks.
What up, my fellow Knicks fans? This is your guy Marcellus Ease, and don't panic quite yet. Now, with the ever-changing landscape, we'll touch base on a few things what's going on with the squad. Leon Rose taking advantage of the Raptors not wanting to send the Spurs a lottery pick, and he was able to land OG. Quickley's goodbye letter to the city. Thibs' future with the squad, especially with all these brand new coaching checks that are getting cashed. And finally, we'll take a look at the chessboard that Leon Rose is looking at, especially with the upcoming changes that's going to happen throughout the league. So in the aftermath of RJ Barrett being traded for the Knicks, Carmelo Anthony had a few choice words about RJ Barrett's game, in which he called it bland. And when it comes to Melo nowadays, he's very interesting because he's almost one of these players that's suffering from the negative effects from the players' movement, in which he failed to make a big enough impact to some of the franchises he played in. And he's pretty much at a point in his life right now where he's trying to find the perfect, I would say, the perfect resting place to hang up his jersey and kind of call it home and reminisce of his career with a few fans. And oddly enough, Kevin Durant is looking like he's going to suffer the same fate if things continue going the way they are right now. But anyway, you guys check out the comments Melo made. Every once in a while, I'll check in.
So now you feel like I'm putting up 24. I'm the third option. I ain't really getting the, you know what I mean? Like, man, I gotta go.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he probably was feeling that. Like, I'm ready to.
Ready to dip up out
Yeah,
there.
what I'm sure he was questioning it. He's just a bland player, bro.
Yeah.
He just like, it's
Regular.
no, it's not. That's not a shot. That's not no disrespect.
nah.
He's just, you know, a lot of people. I ask a lot of people that who are Knicks fans and see what they say, and just like he's just not.
Bro.
He's good. He get it done sometimes, but it's not.
A lot of Knicks fans would say the same thing about Melo around 2015. He's good, but, you know, we're losing every game. He's still getting his points. He's kind of doing him. I mean, let's not forget, Melo was the same person who had a shoulder injury, but yet he was still good enough to be out and then come back for a London game and then was out again and then came back for the All-Star game and then declared he was out for the season the next day. So even though things were quote-unquote bland with the team, Melo made sure that his brand was still standing out and being at the most optimal position. Let's not cap about that.
Exciting player. Like, you don't know if he got 4 or 26.
Exactly. He's just going to the rack crazy every time, lefty, and then the personality too. It's just like
bland.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I
but
remember,
he home now. He home, so he might be good.
He's good because he's a candidate. He's in the crib.
I don't think RJ leaving has something to do with it. Maybe, but I don't think it had anything to do with it because OG can do the same thing RJ doing. He just don't demand it the way that RJ demanded to be a part of the offense. Like,
yeah, this is a great point brought up here by Melo. This is the only part right here where I agree with Melo. RJ, for some reason, at the end of the game was collecting a lot of garbage points. That right there told me, yeah, that 20 points per game was important to him. And also his efficiency and the kind of style of shots that he took, it just wasn't good for the team. And you could see it no better than in the OKC game and also the Orlando Magic game. The last 2 games RJ Barrett played for the Knicks. I mean, not only he wasn't efficient enough, the wing players of those 2 teams were killing. Jalen Williams was shooting over 76%, and SGA was shooting 56%, which is regular for him. But that always seemed to be the story, even in the Orlando game, a team who really can't shoot. And a lot of their struggles are due to the fact that they don't have a setup man at the guard position. But in that matchup against the Knicks, RJ once again wasn't as efficient, but you had Wagner and Suggs almost shooting 55% from the field. Not only RJ required a lot of shots that were inefficient offensively, but defensively, he just couldn't give the Knicks any type of advantage in the perimeter. Guys were cooking way too often and at a very high percentage. And with those two major losses alone, the Knicks fell down a tier at the end of December. So shit definitely had to be shaken up.
OG is cool sitting on the wing and moving around and cutting and waiting for somebody to swing it to him and knock down a three. He's still gonna go play defense, no matter what.
Yeah.
Whereas RJ, if he ain't, he gotta score 20. You know what I'm saying? So where that 20 is gonna come in at? Your 20, 23, 24 is the third option on that team.
Yeah.
And 6 points of it really comes in garbage time. And at the same time, you're giving up points on the other end almost at a high clip. You got opponents shooting over 55%.
So now you feel like I'm putting up 24. I'm the third option. I ain't really getting the, you know what I mean? Like, man.
And at the same time, it's crowded in the spaces you like to occupy. You're the third lefty. Yeah, things kind of get funny.
I gotta go.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he probably was feeling that. Like, I'm ready to.
Ready to dip up out of
Yeah,
here.
what I'm sure he was questioning it.
I'm pretty sure he was, but unfortunate for RJ, the Knicks never really had him play his exact position as shooting guard. Not as often as he probably would have liked, but at the same time, they got a lot of players that kind of occupy the spaces that he needed, and he didn't really perform at a high, efficient enough clip to justify him getting all those shots. The Knicks really couldn't afford another 40% shooter out there on a good day, because other days RJ he shoots way below that, 36, 33, especially due to the fact that the Knicks were already a small unit. They didn't really have a forward out there, and they're just giving points up at a high clip, especially from the perimeter. So it is what it is. But with Melo, I'm surprised he made these comments, especially coming from an ambassador. I don't think I've ever seen a player in Melo's position, especially representing the Knicks, making comments about a young player. RJ's only 23, and even calling his personality bland. That shit sounds kind of personal. I don't know if RJ maybe didn't give Melo a dap or something, but hey, it is what it is. So Immanuel Quickley, upon his exit, had penned a letter to the city thanking everybody, and boy, it was hard as hell to read that, because we all love Quickley. He embodied a lot of characteristics of the Knicks, whether it be the off-ball movement, the defensive tenacity with the rebounding, the closeouts, and just the spark he brought to the team, that energy, that swagger. We all gonna miss Quick, but before I get to that letter, I wanna say this: the pivot's real. With the new CBA coming, a lot of changes are coming throughout the NBA, and the pivot is real, and we gotta be ready to make changes real fast. And it's unfortunate because Quickley, Obi, guys like RJ, they are the casuals, but sometimes when you make tough decisions like that, there's growth at the end of that. And we've seen it play out with plenty other NBA teams. When the Toronto Raptors let go of DeMar DeRozan, they end up picking up Kawhi and going all the way to a championship. Just that one little change. Same thing for the Boston Celtics, getting rid of beloved Marcus Smart and adding KP to their front court. That gives them an option in that half-court offense and is actually elevating them up to a whole nother level. And finally, we could look at a team that was scared to make the pivot, like the Philadelphia 76ers in 2019 when they had Jimmy Butler. The real move for them would have been to give up Ben Simmons and re-sign Jimmy Butler. As we've seen good old Jimmy Boy lead the Miami Heat 2 out of the last 3 seasons to the NBA Finals. So teams understanding the landscape and knowing when to pivot is most important. And when it came to Immanuel Quickley, unfortunately, the landscape of the league, with the new deals that came about, especially for rookies coming off their extensions, the deal that Jalen McDaniels got out in Minnesota, 5 years for $136 million. That $18 million offer that the Knicks gave Quickley was just not going to cut it. And that $18 million for the Knicks' perspective was a stretch. They was already paying Jalen Brunson to basically do the same things. And in a year or so, Jalen Brunson and possibly Julius Randle, if they make all NBA, will actually qualify for a Supermax. So it's going to make things even more complicated, especially when you add on the new CBA. which now money won't even matter for most teams, because as soon as you're over a certain amount of the cap, which is $17 million, they limit you on what kind of trades and signees you can make. So pivoting off Immanuel Quickley was only inevitable, because with the cap going up, other teams was definitely going to be willing to give him exactly what he was looking for once he hit restricted free agency. But one aspect that was kind of overlooked about this trade was Leon Rose kind of understanding the Toronto Raptors circumstance. They owed the San Antonio Spurs a draft pick this summer, but it was top 6 protected. So the Raptors were not bad enough to fall within that protection of top 6. So they would have possibly ended up giving the Toronto Raptors a 7th pick through a 10th pick. So they still would have kind of fell within that lottery. As before the trade, they were the 7th worst team. So this trade for the Raptors actually improved their team enough where they could possibly fall outside of the top 10 and not owe San Antonio a top 10 pick. It didn't make sense enough for them to be top 10, but they were not bad enough to fall within top 6 to be protected. So it was definitely a funny conundrum that they were in. They did not want to be bad enough to bless the San Antonio Spurs of having 2 top 10 picks in the 2024 NBA draft. So they had to get better fast. So kudos to Leon Rose and the front office of the Knicks for making things happen. And situations like this is kind of part of the science that gets cooked up that we sometimes overlook. The circumstance that other teams are at. What do they owe? So with the ever-changing landscape, we don't know what could become of what, but it's great to see the Knicks were able to utilize this trade and get a much-needed asset in OG. And not only he was a much-needed asset, he was an asset that was very sought after. A lot of the contending teams were trying to get OG. But quickly after his exit, was able to pen a letter to the city, and let's see what he had to say.
I see the WOJ bomb. I see the Shams tweet. I immediately called Johnny Bryant. He's somebody that was basically my big brother while I was with the Knicks, somebody that I talked to about anything, my relationship with God, church, my family, anything. I would go to Johnny. So I called him. He was like, you know what it takes, you were built for this. Obviously it's a business, but you have the formula to be successful. Johnny told me to continue to lean on God and the work ethic that got me there. That plane ride back to New York was eerie. I'll never forget that. The Knicks still had a game that night, and I remember sitting on the plane and putting on NBA League Pass, seeing that they were playing. I watched, and it felt like I was missing a game almost, like I was just out or something. I'm looking at all my teammates on that little airplane screen just thinking like, wait, am I missing a game? It was so weird. It just still didn't feel real that I wasn't on the team anymore. It's funny thinking about the little New York things that just become part of your normal, you know what I mean? When you play here, everybody know the Knicks, which mean everybody know you. More than anything, I just gotta say thank you to the whole Knicks organization from top to bottom for taking a chance on me and believing in me enough to take me in the first round. Thanks Leon Rose and Scott Perry and the whole front office. Thibs, thank you for trusting me in big moments. You treated me with nothing but respect and love through the ups and downs. Johnny, thank you for everything. I have so many teammates, some who aren't there anymore, that were such a big influence on me. Thank all of you guys. Julius and RJ. Allen Houston. Everybody. And last but not least, I want to thank the fans for staying with us, for staying with me. I wish I could hug all of you guys. Every night you go out there on the court, you're playing for the team above all else. But the way you guys embraced me gave me something to play for that was bigger than myself, bigger than the team. Every night, deep down I was playing for you.
And we definitely appreciate Quickley, and we wish him the best in Toronto, as he's at the best position that he possibly can be, being on a team that not only wants him, but has a cap room to put him in position to supply a lot of generational wealth for his family. So shout out to Quickley, congratulations, and we wish you the best. And with this Quickley RJ trade, it kind of spots a light on the Knicks and their development over the years, which is something that we haven't seen in a while. Not only we've developed the second rounder Mitchell Robinson into one of the most dominating centers in the league right now, but all the way from the second rounders to guys like Quentin Grimes, RJ, Quickley, and even McBride. The Knicks development team in the past few years, definitely, we got to shout them out too. They've done an amazing job, because I believe it's been over quite some time since we've seen the Knicks actually develop players that they drafted into key contributing pieces, not only for the Knicks, but wanted by other teams. But again, going to the landscape of the league, if Brunson and Randall this season or next season make all NBA, they can trigger a super max contract and opt out early. So that does change a lot of dynamics for the team. And unfortunately for the Knicks, they did not have the cap space to re-sign guys like Quickley. But Leon Rose, even though he acquired OG and added a huge piece that the team needed, especially defensively, he still has a long way to go, as he's pretty much in a juggling act, managing the contracts already on the team, as well as dealing with the new changes in the upcoming CBA this summer, and fitting that all into a certain tier where the Knicks from season to season can still have enough room to at least add one or two guys, maybe with certain exceptions, but you have to stay in a sweet spot. You can't be $17 million over the cap, because starting this summer, we'll see teams like the Golden State Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, the LA Clippers. They're going to have a very difficult time making moves outside of the roster that they already have. Now, ever since last season, right before the trade deadline, when the Knicks had traded for Josh Hart, it was the beginning of the Knicks signaling that they're going to double down on Thibs as a head coach going forward, as the roster continues to reflect the player archetype that he likes, guys who are not afraid to rebound and who could get into passing lanes and at the same time can dribble and create for others. And over the past few months, as we've seen, the Knicks acquired DiVincenzo, who fits his archetype, and they also acquired OG Anunoby. But Thibs, for sure, no doubt, is about to get paid, especially when you take a look at this landscape. Monty Morris getting a 6-year deal with the Detroit Pistons for $78 million, $13 million a year. And of course, the legendary Coach Popovich getting a 5-year, $80 million deal with the Spurs. And the icing on the cake is Spo getting that 8-year deal for over $100 million. They didn't even say the exact number, but they said it's over 100. So Thibs, especially after he hit that 500 win mark, he's definitely going to be getting something coming his way. And he's going to be here for a minute, especially with his man Leon Rose putting full confidence in him throughout the years. And speaking of Leon Rose, he has a ways to go to assist Thibs, especially with the backup rotation. We need a ball handler, and the trade market is ever changing. And just taking a look at the lay of the land, stars are going to be very hard to come by, especially the ones that consistently make all NBA. Because the way the league is structured right now, guys who are really at the top of the top, the team they were drafted on has so much leverage to re-sign them. Not only have the 2-year early access to do so, but also offering that current player 35% of the cap. So even though the Knicks fall in the position of being one of the very few teams in the league that's at a competing level with draft picks to sell, they do not have any buyers in the market at this moment, especially when it comes to superstars. And this is definitely being done by design. All that player movement that's been happening ever since LeBron went to Miami, the NBA owners, especially with this new CBA that started next season, have begun to dig some of this out very surgically and quietly at the same time. And you're going to begin to see this ratchet up times 10 with this new CBA that's going to kick in this upcoming offseason. But this season, we're starting to see it play out in which teams have to put their cards on the table to get certain players up front. AKA, don't assume players will be available later, as we see how it played out with the OG trade. The Knicks had to put their cards on the table. They had to throw Quickley in the deal to make that happen. Same thing for the Pascal Siakam trade. The Pacers put their cards on the table, threw 2 first-round picks at it to make the deals happen. Even though everyone knew Toronto was not going to re-sign Pascal, but at the same time, it's not a guarantee that he's going to hit free agency the way other teams think he's going to hit it. Even though everyone knew the Raptors was not going to sign him, the fact that he would have been one of the few gems in free agency, he would have garnered a large contract that would have fully hit their cap instead of teams being in a position to already have him on their squad and just re-sign him. But yeah, this is definitely multi-layered, as we're going to take a look at some of the free agents that's up and coming. And once again, the landscape is going to be scarce. It is going to be scarce, and some guys are going to end up getting larger contracts than they normally would because of the scarcity. So for those of you that are watching the video version of this, as you can see, I pull up here the spreadsheet. The only star level players that could potentially be available in unrestricted free agency is James Harden, Drew Holiday, and Pascal. So you see, we all know James Harden is probably going to re-sign. Same thing for Drew. So you see the scarcity on the star level. Now, when you take a look at the starter level, most of these guys that are worth a damn on the starter level, guys like Quickley, OG, and maybe you could throw Tobias Harris in there, and that small forward from the Jazz, they're more than likely to re-sign with their teams. The only player I would say is Hartenstein with the Knicks, because he is going to require starter money, especially with the way he's playing this season. But as you can see, the way the league is set up right now, it's rare that guys that are worth a damn are going to hit free agency like that, especially unrestricted. Now, if you guys take a look at the rotational side, the Knicks do need a ball handler. I do like that Monte Morris guy out of Detroit for the Knicks as a backup guard. Also, this season, we could potentially make a trade with the Brooklyn Nets, which is probably unlikely going to happen. I've never seen rivals like that make a trade. A guy like Spencer Dinwiddie, which is low-key a Knick hater, we would need someone like him who's a ball handler and he has good size on him. He would be a good fit scenario for the Knicks this season. But he will be entering unrestricted free agency in the offseason. Now, if you look at the second column under the rotations, a player I do like is Grayson Allen from the Phoenix Suns. The off-ball movement, the catch and shoot. We do have DiVincenzo filling that spot. But I don't know what price tag he's going to garner during the offseason, especially due to the fact that he has Durant, Beal, and Booker all in the perimeter, and the spacing kind of creates open shots for him. So it's hard to tell if he's having a good season because of the spacing created from those guys, or is that just him? Now, one name you don't see on this list, and the AI bots out there on social media love talking about him. Sources say this, sources say that. And we all know it's AI that's saying this, AI is saying that, but Malcolm Brogdon, we're seeing his name over and over again. My only issue with him is that he's not really a playmaker, but he could handle the rock, he could distribute. He's not really turnover prone. And when it comes to shooting, he's sort of like Chris Middleton, doesn't really have that many attempts, but when he shoots it, it's at a pretty good clip. But again, for those of you watching the video version, the tracker clearly shows that there is not going to be a lot of superstar level players this offseason even available. This is not a mistake. This is done by design, and it's going to be like this going forward. Now I'm going to continue on to 2025. And as you can see, the lay of the land looks very similar. A lot of guys that at the star level, like Evan Mobley, Lauri Markkanen, Randall, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Brandon Ingram, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson. The way that things are going to be set up in the 24-25 season is for these guys to re-sign with their same exact teams, especially if they make all NBA. Oh, don't let Jalen Brunson trigger that all NBA selection. Instantly going to be a super max right there. But again, this right here is what the owners wanted, and this is how they slowly crafted out this whole player movement. But all of this is relatively new. We'll get more into this upcoming offseason. But as we're taking a look ahead of the lay of the land, you see how systematically this is set up this way for the top superstar players to almost never hit free agency. This makes things very interesting for Leon Rose because it puts a sense of urgency this season to make something happen before this trade deadline. But due to the landscape being just so dry, it's not really possible. And things are going to get even more interesting because Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, if they get an all-NBA selection, they instantly trigger a supermax. And sure, both of them getting a supermax in New York City, it's no thing. Of course, the Knicks have the money. If the Knicks, before this trade deadline, do not secure perhaps another name, so it won't matter, like the Clippers, they can go over the salary cap because they already have the players on their roster, like James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi. But for the Knicks, them not having that extra play that they're looking for, perhaps a guy who can make 22 mil a year, them not already having that player on their roster and having two guys almost triggering a supermax by making all NBA, it's going to make it very hard to construct a roster going forward. This is where things are going to get real interesting. It's still early on this. This is with the new CBA. This is the new rules that's going to apply this offseason. That's why it's kind of stressed out that the Knicks kind of make moves right now while they have the room to operate under the old CBA, which allowed teams to get the Russell Westbrooks, the James Harden, LeBron James, AD all on the same team. This is the last season to do that. It's almost like the league is allowing you to be grandfathered in with the new CBA. Like the Clippers will be, but they'll still be limited on the roster moves that they can make going forward. With Paul George, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard all on the same roster eating up all that money, the Clippers are pretty much going to be stuck with whatever roster they got. They can only trade one of them for the same exact salary back. There is no 2-for-1 match. And all those trade exceptions that you normally get, it gets taken away from you. So they can't even build a team off of that. And at the same time, every year that there's $17 million into the luxury tax, the league starts taking your first round picks 7 years out and automatically making that first round pick go all the way to the back of the line. It could become a 30th pick in the first round. So you see where the playing field kind of changes, and it doesn't matter how much money teams have, everybody's going to be limited. That's why the Warriors are so pressed. They sent Jordan Poole away. They're trying to clear out money. They didn't give Klay Thompson an extension. We all know the Warriors have money, but the landscape is changing. They're going to start constricting teams if you start spending money like the Warriors. So it is what it is. Leon Rose has one hell of a move to make right here, and we'll see how he plays out his cards. Until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.